Skin tone is a huge issue and a big determining factor in whether an image looks correct or not. And sometimes, yes, you have a neutral gray which you can color correct, but in many cases you just have a portrait or you have a person that does not include a neutral, and so you're kind of left to determine skin color on your own. There is a quick and easy formula that a lot of people don't know that comes pre-computer, and I'm going to teach it to you now. First of all, I'm clicking on the tools panel to make it 2-column. I'm clicking on my foreground color, and I'm typing in a CMYK value. I'm typing in 10, tab 20, tab 20, 0. Okay, here's the formula for making skin tone. Magenta and yellow close to equal, and cyan should never be more than half that amount. So if you look at the skin tone I've created up here, it's a very light color of skin. This applies to all skin tones because we generally don't have green or purple people. And if I come in here and I type 20 and maybe bring magenta up to 60 and yellow up to 60, you can see I've produced a darker skin tone. So this proportional value works with all skin tones. If you want to make somebody look extra healthy, you add a little more yellow up to 10%, and now they have a little bit of a healthy glow. Now taking that a little further, what if I'm looking at this image, and first of all, those red eyes are driving me crazy. I'm going up to the red eye tool, and I'm going to click and drag and get rid of those red eyes. Then I'm going to look at her skin, and if you look over in the info palette, it reads cyan is 19%, magenta is 38%, and yellow 16%. So cyan is way more than half of magenta and yellow is certainly not more than the magenta. So here's what we need to do. In this case, we probably need to pull the yellow up. So I'm going to start color correcting this, bringing up my layers panel. Let me pull that forward. And I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer. I'm going to do the same thing that I've done with all the rest of the images, and that is find the highlight in the shadow, and I can see the highlight is someplace up here. And you don't necessarily have to put a probe in. The probes are simply so you remember where to go, but you can just simply go to your eyedropper tool and also just click where you think the highlight is. And I missed. I went on the red. There we go. And then I'm going to take my shadow tool, and maybe I'll just go check to see where my shadow is. Someplace down here in the lower right. Fine. Adjust this curve a little bit. Lighten up the midtones. Notice I'm thinking my highlight is still a little off, and what I can do, I can come up here and I can click as many times as I want. That looks a lot better. I can click all over the place if I want to, but I want to make sure that I click in the right spot. Now, I am also putting, before I do this, I'm deselecting my eyedropper tool. I'm going back to my click and drag button and shift clicking onto her face, someplace maybe where she's not so red in her cheek, and I'm looking at these color values. Uh-oh, they are in RGB. How do I read CMYK colors? By simply clicking on the eyedropper tool, I can choose that I want to read CMYK colors. And now I see that same proportional value. Cyan's a little high, magenta could be a little higher, yellow way low. This is producing kind of a pinkish look to this. Now if I need to make a color change, look at my drop-down menu. How do I add yellow? Here's a trick for you. On a piece of paper, write RGB down, and then right beside it, write CMYK. And if you look at these values, they're reflecting what you might see in the color wheel. The opposite of magenta, green, opposite of yellow, blue, opposite of red, cyan. So if I am making a change to yellow, I need to adjust the blue. If I'm making change to magenta, I need to adjust the green. And if I am making a change to cyan, I need to adjust the red. So let me go back to this image. So what color do I need to adjust to add some yellow? Blue. I can come in here, hold down my command key. Let me make sure I'm on this adjustment layer. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead in and just grab hold of this blue. And while watching the second half of the value. Now, notice also that if I put the click and drag on, I can also see on the curve where this lies on that curve. I could even hold down my Command key and click if I want to add an anchor point. I'm just going to kind of grab this here, and I'm moving the value up, but I'm not looking at the picture. I'm looking at my info palette, and I'm pulling this up so that the value of yellow is higher, slightly higher than the magenta. Cyan. What color do I need to adjust for cyan? Red. Go back into red. Make sure this is selected again. Crossing over this area, grab the tone curve someplace around here. Cyan is typically added for shading. If you have too much, you make the person look like they are holding their breath. So now I've got this value more accurately at an 11%, 23%, and a 22%. She's got a much more healthy skin tone to her as well. And if I turn off the visibility, you can see that she was pretty blue, and now she looks much more healthy. Now, sometimes you find that this adjustment doesn't work well with the rest of the image. To make somebody look healthy, you might kind of disturb the rest of the image. Don't forget that you can always go in, take your black paintbrush, make it a little smaller, change the opacity to about a 20%, and kind of paint out those corrections if it does lead to problems with the rest of the image. So essentially just kind of masking out the rest of the image and correcting the skin tone only. So there you go, helpful tips for correcting based upon skin tone.